For the Bible reading today, we are going to be looking at the first part of John. So this is John chapter 1, verses 1 to 18, and this is about the light coming into the world, and this is what Drew is going to be talking about today. So starting from verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. He came as a witness, to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. True light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness about him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, 'He who comes after me ranks before me, because he was before me.' For his fullness we have all received upon grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God. The only God who is at the Father's side, he has made him known."
Yeah, today's sermon called "A Presence in Darkness." So maybe this is just the effect that John 1 has on us, that they're familiar words, but they mean a lot. So I'm focusing really on verse 5. So if you remember verse 5, which will flash up on the screen when we get to it, it's all about light has come into the darkness, but the darkness has not overcome it. So that's what we're focusing on, the darkness. We'll know why soon. I've sort of gone with that for this season of the year. But first, how dark is dark? I mean, close your eyes. I don't know if your vision's like mine, but the more I close my eyes, the kind of brighter it gets. And obviously the light's coming in. So darkness isn't absolute, closing our eyes, depending on the room we're in, visual snow like me, lingering impressions of light. But imagine, and I think this is what John wants to imagine, a darkness that truly consumes. The kind may be found under thick cloud cover, under dense trees, like, say, for example, a family of 6 with Grandpa, 7, who's here today, going on a walk. Now, probably like many of you, and it's one of our favourite places, I think, Hastings Caves. It's one of the day trips we like to do since coming to Tasmania, or back to Tasmania, of course, with our family. So we'd finished up for the day at Hastings Caves. We'd done the pool. We'd done the barbecue. And it's the end of the day. It's getting a little bit late, probably technically too late to really do the forest, I go this way, the forest track up to Duckhole Lake, but we did it anyway. For whatever reason, the sign made it look appealing. It definitely seemed like a good idea at the time. The sun was starting to dip, but there we go. We turn off the main road, we go down the forest track, and you're a bit like, what's the sat nav telling us to do? Don't know. And this is a photo of Duckhole Lake. It's definitely worth the effort. 100% do it. It's a great walk. It's not our photo, though, because not only did we not have a torch, we also didn't have a camera or a phone or all the things you might need if it was getting dark walking away from the car. So this is off. You can see the little copyright online. This is the walk. You can see there's a bit of tree cover, and it's got those classical Tasmanian duck boards covered by trees, covered by clouds. And this is more like our view. I don't know how it'll come up. Or if is it, yeah, you get the idea. That's what it looked like for us. Late at night, no torches. Now, we did have Grandpa with his phone and his torch. So it's a line of 7 people. Grandpa at the front, me at the back, because I'm the most expendable. Just completely wrong-footed along duckboards in the dark. And this kind of physical darkness is, I think, what John is telling us is going on spiritually and politically at first century Israel. But more than that, and Advent traditionally within the Christian church for hundreds, if not thousands of years, this period in the lead up to Christmas has been a time to place ourselves as modern Christians in the story of ancient Israel, first century Palestine, under an occupation of Rome. So what we're going to do today is actually going to touch a little bit on that. We'll touch on how John wants us to think about this now. We live in a world still under those forces, the occupation of Rome, and at a time waiting for Jesus to come. First century Israel in their time was waiting for deliverance. Still today, Jesus, we wait. He has come for redemption, but he will come again. But there's a third waiting and a third darkness, and it's the focus today. That is, Jesus does come to us now, and he's present with us in our present troubles and in our present darkness. So our big idea is the Advent. So the Advent just means coming. The coming of Jesus is something now. Yes, in history. Yes, in the future. But now, and he brings his light into our darkness, empowering the church capital C or little c, whichever one, the whole church, not just us here, but us together as a global community to push back against the darkness of the world. So big ideas, hopefully we'll tease it out. Some of that we'll focus on more than others. A collision course with Rome. When Jesus was born, his world was already saturated with a profound, terrifying darkness, the darkness of the Roman Empire. Jewish people were not just suffering under political oppression, they were a state of spiritual and historical trauma. Rome was the ultimate embodiment of worldly power. It was organized, technologically superior, utterly ruthless, and demanded worship for its emperor. Life in first century Judea, the location of the events of Jesus' life, was a constant collision between two worldviews, the kingdom of God and the peace of Rome, or the Pax Romana, if you know that term. Every tax levied under Roman peace, every soldier swaggering down the seat, every public crucifixion was a declaration darkness is in charge, violence works, power rules. Now, around 4 BC, so a decade or so before Jesus' birth, so in living and cultural memory of Jesus' time, Josephus, one of our historians we tracked down some of these events from, records Romans crucified 2,000 rebels as a result of rebellion in Galilee, which is around between 1% and 2% of the entire population of the region in living memory. We've got events recently across the world with similar percentages of people being affected. And how much turmoil does that create? Now, Israel and Judeans at the time had a hope for their expected Messiah, God with them, Emmanuel, to come and address this problem. Their expected king, a political revolutionary, would challenge the darkness of Rome with the light of a conquering army. The misconceived hope of a Messiah at the time. And you have sects with a T, rising up in Judea at the time, whether it's the Iscariots, so the military sects, or the religious sects, rising up to try and bring Messiah, force revolutionary battle in Rome. But Jesus, God's promised Messiah, did not do that. His ministry was a redefinition of the battle. We need to remember Jesus didn't come to conquer these external darknesses first, but to challenge the internal darkness. The darkness that allows us to prefer sin, to the extent that he tells Pilate, the Roman governor, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would be fighting." So this is a direct contrast between the kind of king the world expects to use worldly power and the kind of king Jesus is. So our first question as we get ready to explore John's Gospel here in chapter 1, and we'll trace through this a little bit in some of his writing, is, are we fighting the right battle? Are we looking for the right tools to fight that battle? Do we think, why is the world in charge? The world's wrongs, the things out there. Do we use the same tools the world used, the battle, the fight, the political activism, the social media? Do we have our hopes in those things to really cure the problems of the world? Because they're the tools the world is using. Or do we, like Jesus here, seem to think it's somewhat different? And that's what we'll talk about today. So the primary battle will always be spiritual, moral, and personal, not individual. We're not talking about individuals doing things here. We're a community, the church, but personal, moral, and spiritual. Cool. All right. The darkness of choice. Cool. There we go. The darkness of choice. The Gospel of John, uniquely perhaps of the four Gospels, but maybe not, takes this choice between light and darkness and lifts it, makes a profound, stark choice. John, from his very first page we've read today, introduces this theme in his Gospel that tracks throughout. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Now, if you're a reader of your Old Testament, that everyone was in John's audience, and I think we get it as well, we're talking about creation, the beginning of everything in the Bible, Genesis. The words earlier in John 1 introduced Jesus as the Word with God. Through everything was created. In Genesis, at the start of your Bible, everything is created out of darkness, out of a watery darkness. John is introducing Jesus into a location that is dark. Our world still contains this darkness through both the political oppressions that we see in our world out there and military conflict, injustice, but also in our own hearts as well. Jesus even stakes his identity on this choice. Jesus says, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." Bit of an upgrade from Grandpa's phone, walking in the darkness of Duckhole Lake. And certainly with that phone about 7 people ahead, there was no way I was going to prevent from tripping. But if you track this theme through John, Jesus is saying, "I am the light." If you want to follow the way, this is a firm way to do it. The moral crisis. John presents us a choice now. This is the verdict. Light has come into the world, Jesus, but people loved darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear their deeds will be exposed. And this is the rub. We're not talking about a statement of political opposition, but moral condition. We have, as humans, a preference for moral darkness, a built-in preference. Jesus came to bring light to that darkness. The problem is not ignorance, it is always preference. Now we're going to do a little bit of an activity, which is hopefully going to land okay. Maybe not quite the right audience, but we'll see. We're going to track through 4 scenes in John's Gospel where he shows people acting in the dark, and we'll just look at how Jesus relates to them. He said it it's the theme of his Gospel at the start, light and darkness. We'll see how this plays out, and we'll see the end scene as well and how that ties in. Anyway, you'll see it. We'll give it a go. Agents in the dark, like secret agents or spy agents. At least the first one, it's Nicodemus. Now, among the agents in the dark, Nicodemus stands out as a compelling figure. He's a prominent first century Pharisee, a member of the ruling council, the Jewish ruling council. He's a man of status and authority, yet he comes to Jesus at night. Not only to engage in theological discussion, well, that's what he's there to do, but to protect his reputation and avoid public scrutiny, avoiding the daylight. Aligning himself with an unconventional teacher like Jesus could have been professionally and socially damaging. I wonder how much of that rings true for us when we think about what it means to put ourselves in the same category of these group of people who call themselves Christians. Is it socially embarrassing? Is it dangerous? Are we hesitant? Do we worry what will be the cost if I put myself in Jesus' camp? Well, this is Nicodemus's perspective. And of course, if you know that scene, and if you don't know that scene, it's worth a read, and it's worth watching what The Chosen, if you know that TV show, does. It's a great scene in The Chosen TV series. Check it out. It's probably just on YouTube. If you go like Nicodemus, The Chosen, it's such a cool scene. Anyway, and it won't go there. But the point here is Jesus does not say to Nicodemus, "You've got to meet me in the day." Jesus meets him at night. Jesus does not present a barrier to Nicodemus, and he doesn't present one to us. If we are hesitant about Jesus, if we are unsure of what it means for us, Jesus will be there. Be there ready to meet us where we're at, regardless of our reservations. Jesus will always be there. Rooted tradition. So, next one's got a funny one. We'll get there. Disciples lost in the storm. Another scene in darkness shows, again, our disciples lost without Jesus in the dark. They were alone. There was a strong wind whipping the sea. John notes, by now it was dark and Jesus had not yet joined them. Now, like the disciples, we might feel just tossed, lost, abandoned, and unsure. Whether we're partway through a long life of following Jesus, whether we're near the front, or whether we haven't yet taken a step to follow Jesus, we might think, what is going on? Who could possibly save us? Again, Jesus was not far. I like how the picture shows it, just on the hill. Jesus was there. He came. He demonstrated his mastery over these things of chaos and darkness and his presence in their darkest hours. He met them where they are. He meets us where we are. I skipped one, which I'll come back to, and it'll make sense why I skipped one of the scenes, because it's the dark one. Mary Magdalene at the tomb after the death and resurrection of Jesus. She turned up while it was still dark. It embodies a profound personal darkness, the crushing weight of grief and confusion. To her in that moment, the darkness has indeed won. We read at the start of John's Gospel, the darkness has not overcome the light. Yet to Mary in this moment, all she has seen is the darkness has won. The power of Rome, the peace of Rome has won over the life of Jesus because he's been killed. And surely that's like us as well. If we look either at the world around us to see how chaotic everything still is, or perhaps with persistent sin, perhaps with the same habits that you have, same habits I have, you just say, isn't Jesus supposed to have won? Why do I carry the same thing? One minister we had used to say, when talking these things, we keep coming back to God saying, hey God, it's me again, and it's that same thing again. Hasn't Jesus won? Why do we still have these problems? When will it ever end? And even in that grief and confusion, again, Jesus doesn't wait for Mary to get her act together. He turns up. Alan, in the next verse, I think, he just says her name and she knows that it's him. Now, a cool thing about this scene, I didn't get the whole thing there, is that Mary actually thinks she's the gardener. And if we just think back to our creation theme, light and dark and creation, a man and a woman in a garden and light. I mean, this is what John is telling us. There is a new creation. All these things together add up to a new creation, which I think is kind of cool, even if it's just from a literary perspective. Well done, John. Not bad for a fisherman. Of course, the fourth actor or fourth agent in the dark is Judas. And he offers this tragic, the most stark and tragic example and personification of someone loving the darkness instead of light, the chief betrayer of Jesus, Judas. Now, while you could see his actions as a form of simple greed, he doesn't like where things are going and he wants money, even though he throws that money away later. Nevertheless, I think John's Gospels hints at a deeper, more profound choice. Judas is escalating the conflict with the rulers around him by bringing Jesus into direct conflict with the Pharisees. He brings him into a garden with swords in order to escalate the conflict, fighting the fight using Rome's tools, not Jesus's. Jesus was all about loving others and serving your neighbor and praying for those who persecute you, but that wasn't good enough for Judas. He wanted to fight the good fight using Rome's tools. And if you know the scene in the garden later when Jesus is betrayed, Simon pulls out his sword. He's ready for the fight too. And Jesus says, no, it's not time. Not time for fighting. If you track though, Jesus said, go and get a sword. Just immediately prior. So one thing to track in Rome, and I won't go over it in John, in the Gospels, is who's asking for someone to hold a sword and when? Because if you track what Jesus has asked them to do and what the disciples are doing, there's little tension. At one point, Jesus says, put away your swords. And then he says, go and get one. And say, we've got two. So, how do you have two swords? You're not supposed to have any. Finally, when they have a sword, Jesus says, don't use it. Jesus is not using the power of Rome, and Judas is. And how does that mean for us? The insidious nature of loving the darkness is compromising with what the world offers. Do we seek to push our own agenda ahead of God's? This extends to the way we indulge ourselves, both in the flesh and in the mind, through unchecked desires, food, sex, and drink. Whatever it is, the constant mental gymnastics we have is us saying to God, your way isn't the right way, my good life on my terms. But John is clear, light exposes, Judas's choice is a potent reminder that even those closest to the light can indulge in moral compromise and turn away and embrace the darkness. You are going to have the light a little while longer, Jesus says to his disciples, before he's being crucified. While you have the light walk while you have the light before darkness overtakes you. Whoever walks in the dark does not know where they're going. Believe the light while you have the light, so you might become children of light. To go back to our walk around Duckhole Lake, there's a time where the light will provide the light I need to walk safely. But here Jesus is saying his followers can become those children of light. That whether here Jesus in the body with his disciples or later when he's not, the light of the truth of Jesus and the gospel can always be with us. Getting near the end. Are we ready for a dark Christmas? So remember, the incarnation or the birth of Jesus is present with us now, brings his light into our darkness. We don't have to leave our darkness to meet Jesus, and empowers the church to push it back against the darkness of the world. If we are children of light, then that same way that Jesus met his disciples, we can meet each other. We can meet through Christian community, through evangelism. Have I got? Yep, okay, that's the previous slide. That's all right. We'll get there. Now, the world wants a Christmas of easy manufactured light. But maybe what we need is a dark Christmas, stripped of its veneer, where we confront darkness with the gospel and the truth of Jesus. The two things to carry here, I think, is one is our identity is light. Those who follow Jesus are sons and daughters of light. It is your fundamental defining reality. Whether you are in Nicodemus's camp of uncertainty, maybe social embarrassment, whether you're in the disciples and the world is chaos and tossing you around, or Mary's camp of grief and uncertainty, there is a truth that your identity as a follower of Jesus is one of light. Our mission is presence. The mission of the church and of us is not to leave the world. When Jesus spoke to Pilate, he didn't say, my kingdom is not in the world. He said, my kingdom is not of the world. We don't get taken out of the world, we are sent into it. The church is the ongoing presence of Jesus, a community of light bearers sent into the political, social, and personal darknesses of our lives. So there are three kind of points of application. One is abide. So from John 14, Thomas said to Jesus, Lord, we don't know where you're going, so how can we know the way? And Jesus answered, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you'll really know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. This declaration becomes a core of our hope, that Jesus has come and is coming and will come again, dispelling the darkness with his unyielding light and offering the only true path. Through prayer and scripture, this week we can abide in Jesus, the light, and fill the voids of our heart. So the suggested action to abide in this is to read through the Gospel of John for Christmas and follow this theme of darkness or anything else you might notice, and just learn what does it mean to put yourself in the first century and imagine waiting for Messiah to come? What does it mean to put yourself in the future when Jesus will come again and right all wrongs in the world? Or perhaps, what does it mean to think about the darknesses that are within the compromises we make daily? Invite. Now, invite's not quite the right word here, because I don't want to say invite Jesus into your life, because Jesus has invited himself already. Revelation 3:20, here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person and they with me. Now, if Jesus was bringing dinner to your house, the dinner, symbolically, would be the bread and the cup. Jesus is knocking at your door, ready to have a meal with you. It doesn't matter what lights you have inside. It doesn't matter the darkness in there. Jesus is there knocking. This is actually our Bethlehem night, our night of dark waiting for Jesus. And he is already at the door knocking. Whether you are someone who believes in Jesus and follows him already, or whether this is something to revisit on a daily basis or weekly through things like communion, we are waiting for Jesus and he is at the door, always inviting us in. Now, one profound way, and maybe helpful for Christmas, that we can say yes to Jesus coming in is actually to invite those within our Christian community to come in. And this means actively engaging the process of knowing and being known by others in your Christian community. These people can be the hands and feet of Jesus in your life, helping you as you encounter your own habitual sins and struggles. They, through the love of Christ, can help us through grace, prayer, and accountability. When we talk to each other about our struggles, within circles of people we trust, we are opening the doors of our hearts and allowing Jesus, our light, to come in. It's a tangible expression of what it means to be children of light, to engage not just with Jesus in prayer, which is good, but with his people. Suggested action: meet with a friend for a Christmas coffee, meal, walk, or whatever, and share how you're going with one of your struggles. Maybe this is a friend you already have, you've already talked about that, that's great. If you don't know the right person, then you have come to the right place. This is the place to meet people who want to be on that journey with you. Project, like the projector at the back of the room, I guess. Matthew 5:14, you are the light of the world. So John's gospel, I am the light of the world. You are children of light. Matthew's gospel, you are the light of the world. A town on a city on a hill? A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Jesus' mission to us is our mission to the world. As sons and daughters of light, the church is called not to retreat from the world, but to actively embody God's presence, radiating truth and love into its darkest corners. Now, this can mean engaging with societal issues and corruption and evil that you see, whether it's in Hobart, Tasmania, Australia, or the world, or it can mean addressing what we know as the loneliness epidemic, in your circle of friends. Australia is sitting in an epidemic of loneliness, particularly among men, but I'm sure among women too. What does it mean to be the light of the world in dark times such as this? So the suggested action: Christmas time is great for social justice opportunities. I'm sure if you Google what can I do to help in my community and be that light of Jesus, stuff will pop up, because I did Google it and stuff did. But I had to do a check. It could also just mean hospitality to your family, to your friends, to those that you know are just outside your friendship group. Maybe they're officially in, but just not the one you want to normally hang out with. Maybe it's the person you normally hang out with but haven't for a long time. I don't know. But what does it mean to be the light in that situation? Only when the light is fully present with us can we shine brightly enough to push back the darkness outside. May Christmas be not only merely a celebration of light, but in joining with the historical church in the period of Advent, may we radiate presence in darkness. Amen. Thank you.